Hello, everyone, and welcome to the next webinar of the Center for Professional Selling at Ball State University. We are privileged to have three very important guests. We have Professor George Ganaj, who is the Assistant Director of the Sales Center. And then we have Carly and Bridget from RiteHite. If you'd be kind
Hello.
enough to introduce yourself as well, and what do you do at RiteHite?
My name is Bridget Bodine. I am an HR coordinator for RiteHite at our Dubuque manufacturing facility in Dubuque, Iowa.
Hi there, my name's Carly Harshbarger. I'm actually a past Ball State alum, so chirp chirp, and I am a salesperson at RiteHite.
Thank you so much. So, for those of you who are not aware, RiteHite is a business to business industrial manufacturer, and essentially they have a lot of cool products. So, actually, if one of you can tell us what are the different products that RiteHite makes, that would be fantastic.
Right, so RiteHite has over 200 solutions, so it gets kind of overwhelming. We're most known for our vehicle restraint, which is the dock lock, and it's actually an industry that we created in 1980, so that's actually what we're most known for. So any type of loading equipment you can think of, safety equipment, high volume, low speed fans, industrial doors, a lot of equipment that you're going to see in major facilities such as your Amazons of the world,
Yeah.
PepsiCo's. So basically just keeping people safe and offering solutions from the outside of the facility to the inside.
It's very interesting you talk about the concept of solutions. I'm really glad you mentioned this because what we see a lot of companies today is that they're trying to transition from selling products to selling solutions. So, can you talk a little bit more about this kind of why do you call it solutions and what goes into a typical solution? Is it just a product or all the extra value added services you put on top of it?
Exactly. So obviously, the whole point of selling is conveying value.
Yeah.
So we're not selling products; we're selling solutions because you derive that solution from listening to your customer,
Yeah.
getting that customer what they need, as opposed to just trying to push something on them. So that's why I personally call it a solution. I found that when I introduce what we have to offer and call it a solution, I feel like my customers are more apt to listen to what I'm saying as opposed to being turned off because they know that they're being sold to.
Indeed. And Bridget, my question to you is from a recruiting perspective.
Okay.
Do you actually see that that's also one of the things that you look for in young recruits? The ability to actually go beyond just a physical product, to actually think from the viewpoint of listening to the needs of the customers and actually how you can articulate the value you bring to the customers?
I mean, it's really important to be able to find someone that is able to communicate with different, obviously, types of people. And yes, you are selling a product at the end of the day, but you, like Carla said, you do want to sell the solution. You want someone who is able to sell all different types of solutions because you may have, one problem. You may have this one loading dock, and there's so many solutions that you can have to it. Or maybe, they only want one solution right now, but maybe there's going to be a solution down the road that you may see, or maybe they have a competitor's product. They're like, okay, maybe this is a temporary solution, but let me find you actually like a permanent solution that's going to last longer than what you have right now.
So fantastic. So essentially what you're saying is that you want to talk about solutions, but that also has an impact on the way and what you look for in terms of recruiting the kind of professionals that you want to come into the organization. So, Kali, now one of the things you mentioned was that you talk about solutions. So, currently you mentioned the fact that within RiteHite that there are solutions, there's a certain product that you have, but you also talked a little bit about service. So how does that factor into the kind of sales roles that you have at RiteHite?
Great question. So at RiteHite, we've got two different types of sales. We've got our field service representatives, and they deal more with after the fact, right? So your repair, replacement, or after someone's already purchased a product, how can we help them in longevity? And then we also have our new equipment representatives, and that's what I am. So at the end of the day, it's still sales, but each does a completely different thing. So with me, I will sell new equipment. So give demos. Maybe somebody has an existing unit on the wall that is a competitive restraint or a competitive unit. At that point, I convey the value of why they should maybe go an alternative route. Whereas with the field service representative, their goal is to offer PM agreements or to ultimately service the equipment after it's already in place.
So for the uninitiated audience, what is a PM agreement?
Yeah, so a PM agreement is preventative maintenance or planned maintenance. So basically, we want to make sure that we address problems, whether it's greasing different equipment, oiling different equipment, to prevent anything from happening.
Oh, fantastic.
Whether it is a RiteHite product or a competitor.
That's interesting. So what you're saying is that at RiteHite, you also service the competition's products as well?
That's
Yes.
why RiteHite is such a great company. Is that our
Mhm.
service techs are top notch to the fact that we learn to service our competitors' products.
Mhm.
So say you have a couple RiteHite products and you have a couple, competitor products. Our service techs can go in and service all the products.
Wow.
That's amazing. If I can ask a question of Bridget, please, from the HR perspective,
Sure.
what kind of skill sets or character traits do you look into new hires?
So for new hires, I'm looking for someone that's got good communication skill. Obviously, those are really important. Is that someone that can communicate? You have to have, good communication because you're going to be dealing with all different types of people. You're going to deal with a lot of plant managers. You can deal with even, business owners. You're going to deal with all different types of people. So you have to be able to communicate in various ways. Someone that autonomy is huge for us. I always talk about our sales program as, here's all the tools and resources to be successful. We're going to give you all the tools. We're going to teach you about different products. And then it's like having your own little business. All right, now go be successful. Sell as much as you want. Go crazy.
Yeah. And that's actually, it's really interesting that you talk about the fact that the communication skills you're going to have is going to be different. And I think that's one of the things which is what struck me when you say you have a capital equipment, that is somebody selling a big piece of equipment when they're buying something new, and where you come in and start selling your field service reps. And from the viewpoint of typically when you go sell new equipment, so what are the kind of people that you go see in the customer's organization?
Right. So selling new equipment, I'm going to see more of the people that really have a heavy weight in the company. So that's operations managers, facility managers, safety managers. Now, obviously, those people are influenced from other people, maybe the maintenance manager, that type of thing. But usually I come in contact with the key players in the organization.
Indeed. And when you talk about field service, so essentially you're talking about different sets of people. So how do you vary your conversation depending upon who you're talking to? Because as you said, the heavy hitters might be needing a different way of talking to them because they have their own set of key performance indicators. So you have to talk about how your solution creates value for them. But when you, as a service rep, you're talking to a different kind of audience. So how do you put on the different kind of hat, or do you have different people doing it?
That's a really good question. So typically what I like to do is have rugby calls. So I'll have both myself and sometimes my field service representative. And I love to have the maintenance guy in the same time I have the operations or safety guy in. I like to touch on each point, right? So the maintenance guy doesn't care about, how much it's costing. He cares more about how much more am I replacing? How much more work is this for me? Whereas the safety guy wants to know, is this up to OSHA regulations? So definitely just understanding the product through and through and talking to each person according about what they care about.
Indeed.
And also making each of their needs met, making sure that you're having each person's needs met. Because if you only are meeting the needs of this person, maybe you're not making the needs of this person.
And that, Bridget, for me was my question to you, is that that's not a very easy skill set. So essentially, do you look for different skill sets when you're looking for an equipment sales as against if they have to be a field service rep?
So when I do the recruiting, I look for obviously general sales, and then you have those key characteristics like Carly's really good with communication, so it's probably really good that she can do new equipment. She goes and can deal with those different types of people that she's going to, talk to. I think it takes different skill sets, the preventative maintenance, probably someone that's definitely more detail oriented and being able to look, okay, so this is how we're going to, be able to service your product. And I think it just kind of depends on, the type of person.
Indeed.
And to be honest with you, so both the field service representatives and the new equipment representatives go through the exact same training. So nothing is different. Now, for the field service representatives, they learn more on the fly. So in the field by seeing broken equipment that needs repaired, replaced, that type of thing. But to answer your question, we go through the same training.
But actually, Khalid, my question to you is that to what extent do you think that given your line of business, that being a field service rep is actually a good stepping stone to become an equipment rep, because then you know all the things that can possibly go wrong and the repercussions of it on the business, so that when you talk to the bigger, so-called the bigger fish, you're able to talk in terms of the implications of what the small things that they're paying attention to has.
Absolutely. So to be honest with you, I think going in as a field service representative is honestly beneficial, because then you know the product through and through. So like we said before, obviously no matter what you're selling to a variety of different people. So to your point, when you know the details of this is what happened, this is why it happened, I think it establishes more credibility for you too, for the salesperson, and that then establishes more credibility for the product that you're selling. So
Indeed. And is that something from a recruitment perspective and onboarding perspective? That's something that RiteHite pays a lot of attention to make sure that people get the adequate amount of training, exposure in the field, so that they
Yes.
can be successful.
Yeah, I mean, we do spend like Carly said, we do have 3 months that you're at corporate training and then 3 months in the field. But they do obviously, once you get out in the field, I believe it's definitely a little bit different training depending on if you're a new equipment or the field service. But I mean, everyone gets the same training, like she said, at corporate. You learn all the new, learn all the different products and everything like that. It's just more if you kind of notice by during orientation, if someone's got a really good, keen sense of attention to detail, then you're like, okay, then maybe that person might do better at this, or maybe you actually like the idea of servicing better than you would doing new equipment. It kind of all depends. Also, territory based, depending on what the territory is, who your clients are, and who the customers are. You never know.
And Bridget and Carly, do you find that more women succeed in the position as sales or more males?
To be
That's a
honest,
tough question.
no, that's a great question. I really appreciate you asking that. So obviously, the industry that I'm in is very male dominant. I haven't seen really any other females in my territory, and I would say that that's that has benefits and negatives. Benefits, I think being a female and being a male, as long as you know what you're talking about. So usually when I go into a meeting, I'll just establish credibility right away, and then hopefully just put the gender aside. So with that, I mean, I think that either can be successful.
Indeed.
Yeah, we've had both males and females. Honestly, a lot more male dominated, but one of my passions is always to try to find the females, because I've seen really successful females. Some of them are very successful, salespeople have been females, and it's really exciting to see the females get out there because they have a different, flavor than a male might have. So it's definitely good to see both, and the fact that we're really trying to increase the female population of sales is definitely,
Indeed.
increasing.
I think that's one of the things that I guess you need to have a right kind of corporate culture for it as well. But actually, from building on a couple of things that you said, is that if you began, so okay, I'm talking to Kali right here, and then eventually I'll come to you, Bridget, because I'm going to talk about it in terms of career path. So let's say you started out as a sales rep, and then you're going to go into field service rep again, and the lines are blurring, and you just said that you're going to actually do a little bit of both, like a hybrid kind of approach.
Yes.
So what would the next step be in terms of career-wise for you within RiteHite?
So within RiteHite, I mean, obviously the sales opportunities are great. So I think like anything, you kind of need to earn your stripes a little bit. So for me, I want to stay in sales, do well in sales, establish myself in sales, learn the industry, to be honest. So like I told you before, it will be kind of like a hybrid role. So I'll be doing both field service and new equipment sales, just learning the industry through and through. And then eventually, ideally, I'd like to, move up the ladder, maybe management roles, that type of thing.
Indeed. And that's my question too. So management roles, would it be strictly restricted to sales, or could people who go into sales then branch out into, hey, let's go marketing or finance, maybe they wouldn't want to go to finance.
Absolutely. So there's people that we hired some people even in HR that have an HR degree and they go into sales. And it's great that you start in sales, and then maybe later down the road you're like, well, maybe someday they might want to be like a VP of HR or something like that. They can go into management roles, get your management experience, but you also can go in so many different avenues. It all depends. Some people want to always be money hungry, and they're very competitive, and they want the highest pay they can get. Obviously, when you are in management roles, you're not making the money that you did when you were in individual sales. So it kind of all depends on what you want to do. And a lot of our presidents and VPs have come from the sales industry. So there is so much room for growth with RiteHite. We always look internal versus external.
Excellent. And I think that's actually one of the questions that I have for you, Carly, is that when you would have had so many opportunities, why did you choose RiteHite?
That's a really great question. So for me, it just felt right immediately. So I love the company culture. It's definitely a company where you don't feel like just a number, and it's a company that you can do so well in. You're your own boss, as Bridget said before. So the company treats you well. They give you the resources that you need, and to me, it just makes sense because it's a company that's really looking out for you.
Indeed. And I think, and Bridget, for why, what would be your value proposition? So why should any student come? And of course, there's Carly who's sipped the Kool-Aid already. So from your perspective is, why should anybody come and talk to RiteHite and consider that as a first step in their career?
Honestly, RiteHite has, compared to a lot of other sales programs, I look at all the time and effort. Their training program is unlike anyone I've seen. They give you, 6 months worth of training. They wine and dine you. They want you to meet the owner of the company. They give you all the tools and resources. You look at some other companies where they'll say, okay, we'll do training for like 6 weeks and here we go. We're going to feed you out to the fish. Okay, well, RiteHite doesn't do that. They put so much time and effort and just the culture of it. I honestly love the fact that we are a smaller company, and our products are high quality. I get to see the products made on a daily basis in our manufacturing facility, and just the passion, even if it is loading dock equipment, it's safety equipment. You're making people safe, and it's just a great company to stand by. It's a well-known company, and just the attitude of the employees and the longevity, and all the benefits you reap from being at RiteHite. I've been with that company for 3.5. Just something that I love to sell. Like, I love selling the company. It's just awesome.
I'd like to ask a question on type of repeat business that a sales rep could expect to have once they sold the overhead door mechanisms and all that. What else do you add on to that particular product that a salesperson could sell more to the existing customers?
That's a great question. So in the case of a high-speed door, let's say that I go to a facility, I install a high-speed door. Later on, I could add things like virtual vision, and I'm not going to get too product heavy, but basically just additional add-on features to whether increase safety, to increase, things like that. So right away you can buy the door, but later on you can always add parts and pieces, which keeps me happy, keeps the customer happy, and then along with service, that type of thing, just to make sure that you're getting the product, the quality you deserve.
Indeed. Now, let me slightly switch gear and ask you. So, one of the key things that you have is that your ability to say that RiteHite is a great company because we have great products and great solutions is your ability to work well with people within your own organization, because you could go make promise to the customer, but if people within your organization do not live up to those promises, at the end of the day, it's RiteHite's name, but it's your credibility in terms of sales. So how do you try to make sure that you have a good rapport with people within your own organization who have to go deliver on those promises?
That's where manufacturing comes into play. So obviously we have lead times and everything. I know that's been a frustration for a lot of salespeople is that, when they sell a product and they're like, okay, our lead times are like 6 weeks, and so they want it sooner. We can put rushes on orders and stuff like that. So we do a really good job communicating between our sales force and also the manufacturing. That's what my job is to be able to hire all of the production workers, all the manufacturing people that we have. So trying to keep up with the business demands is definitely something that we try really hard and strive for. So we always make sure that we always have the products out on time. That's our first priority is our customers. So you want to make the customers happy first.
And two, I think a really good point is we've got people, willing to help you just right next door. So like my manager, for instance, I had a big sale come in recently and the customer needed it in 4 weeks. And they always say under promise, over deliver, right? So I told the customer, I'll try my hardest to get it to you in 4 weeks, but I can't promise anything. So talk to my manager. He reached out to, the manufacturers, that type of thing. So there are people to help you. You just need to ask, and you can't expect so much of people that it's not going to be something that can actually happen.
But it's a lot of give and take too, right? So essentially the idea is that you ask something, but to what extent is that a part of the culture? Because eventually you're going to reach a point again. So Bridget, you're already there. Carly, you're going to grow within the organization where you're going to say, hey, somebody is asking me for help. So to what extent is that part of culture, and how important is that for you as an organization to be successful out there?
It's a family. It's like I said, it's the RiteHite family. It's just the culture of RiteHite, and it's very family oriented.
It's a family-owned company, and you can feel that.
You can feel that you're part of a family. Everyone's there to help each other. That's why we all work. We may have different divisions, like our door division, our enclosure division, but we all work for RiteHite. We're all one big family. I mean, even in manufacturing, if one division's behind, we'll take someone from a different division to help get them up. So we are, definitely a huge family.
Indeed. So some final questions from my side before Dr. Ganache takes over. So Carly, if I ask you three big challenges that you faced in the sales job in your time so far, what would they be and how did you deal with it?
Right. So I would say just getting started. My first was basically establishing a routine or establishing kind of organization. So for me, obviously, I'm getting a lot of quotes, things like that from customers. How do I prioritize? Which one should I do first? How do I? So that for me was a big thing. I had to find a way to make that work. I would say another thing is I'm in a newer territory, which is it's great because it's a great way to get our name out there. But I also need to get into a lot of new facilities. So just once again conveying that value, getting my foot in the door, and it has paid off. It really has. And then third, I would say probably a lot of drive time. There's a lot of windshield time in my job, so making the most of that. Definitely calling customers while I'm driving and figuring out ways to kind of maximize my time on the road.
Indeed. Shifting gears for you, Bridget, is what are the three things that you look for when somebody comes to you approaching RiteHite for a sales position? It could just be two, it's fine, but I'm assuming three. You'd at least look for three things. So
three things are like in characteristics of so obviously the autonomy, someone that is going to be independent, good communication skills, and someone who is money hungry. I want someone who's competitive. And honestly, my biggest thing is someone who's got a passion. Someone who is passionate, even if it's like maybe like a silent passion, but you can just tell by the way they talk to you that they are just so driven and they're like, they get so passionate about what they do. I'm passionate about what I do and I like being able to see it in other people. And when they have that just mentality, you're like, that person's going to go places.
It's very interesting that you talk about this. So both of you are very successful professionals. How do you mix this with your personal life? So essentially, doing all this traveling, driving time for you, going to campuses for you, Bridget, along this comes at the price of your professional life. So how do you make your work life and your personal life work together well? Because that's going to be key to your ability to do this for long periods of time. So what would be some of the things that you girls do?
Good support systems. My family helps me out a lot. I have a dog, so my parents help me out too. There's great HR assistants. We got some help in the office, so he knows how important recruiting is to me. He helps me out whenever he can. Just having those good communication skills, even with your boss and just with your friends, and just making sure that you really manage your time appropriately and making sure that you're not overdoing it, but making sure that you keep time for yourself too, even when you are on the road. Go and try new things, meet new people, do stuff for yourself, even if it's not necessarily work related. Go and have a drink. Go, try new things. So mine's just I just try to enjoy it and make sure that I'm not overdoing it at the end of the day.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. So sales obviously is a job that can consume you. So for me, I'm still kind of trying to find that balance, but I definitely think that, and my boss always says, he's like, don't burn the candle out from both ends. And I think that's very true. So every night I try to give myself, time where I like to go work out or do yoga or still stick with those things because they're things that I enjoy. And I think if you just work, at the end of the day, you're not producing something that's quality, you're just kind of burnt out. So you need to make time for that. And I'm still trying to talk myself into that, but there will be a time.
And one thing actually to add to it is that RiteHite, they're very, like I said, family oriented. They're very big on family. They know how important family is. Still to this day, if it's between work and family, they always tell you, work will be here when you get back. Family is more important. And I can't tell you how many times I've doctor's appointments from they are so flexible. They want to work with you. They're not so stingy where they're like, no, work comes first. No, it's always family. And at work, that's why we have people to help you out.
Fantastic.
So just a couple of questions in closing. I'm just curious as to how you go ahead and prospect for your customers.
So
big territory that you have, maybe. I don't know if it's a couple states or a state, but how do you prospect?
Right. So at RiteHite, luckily they have different types of accounts and relationships already established. So, with the Amazons of the world, the Pepsis of the world, we have global accounts. So at those places, I'll already have contact information for
Yeah.
people that I can see, which is great. Now, let's say that I'm driving and I see a large distribution center where no one's been in before. Great, that's on me, right? That goes back to the autonomy thing. So in that case in point, I'll go in, I'll try to get a business card, I'll cold call, I'll do whatever I can to get in. But it's not like you're starting from scratch. They obviously have some resources to help you. So it's a really good balance.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, I have no other questions. It's been a great
Indeed.
time spending with you.
Yeah,
today.
thank you
Thank you.
guys.
Thank you so much. And again, this is a new initiative where we're trying to do something along these lines. So thank you so much for your time,
Thank you.
effort,
Yes.
and stay tuned as we try to make sure that we get RiteHite to recruit more of our students as well. And go talk to RiteHite when you see them as well. So thank you very much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Really
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Thank you. Yes. Thank you.